Approve.
Dan Ormsby,
Approve.
Kathy Downs,
Approve.
Ed Rankin,
Approve.
Item 5 is review correspondence from the Down East Transportation Ridership Reports for February, March, and April, and May of 2020. It looks like the rides have picked up a little bit from where they were, so that's good to see. Any questions on any of that? Item 6 is ordinance to consider and introduce. I don't believe we have any of those. Item 7, discussion items. Go right down through the list, I guess. The first is the fire department rescue truck request. Is that you going to be you, Sue, or the chief?
We have Chief Gagan and Deputy Chief Denning to present on this. And there's a separate resolve further on, but they're going to explain the request.
Go ahead, Chief.
Good evening. The request from the fire department for a rescue truck is a CIP item for this year, which was already put in the budget last year for this year's budget. The current rescue truck that we have online here at the department is a 1994 truck. This was actually on the plan to be replaced in 2014. It was a 20-year plan when we got the truck. In the middle of it, there became some issues with that truck. There were repairs that were done. That was probably 10 or 12 plus years ago that they did the repairs of the truck. That included repairs on the box, it being repainted, and this extended this replacement to 25 years, which was 2019. In order to do research and stuff, we pushed that forward to another year, which brings us to 2020, and it is proposed for this budget that we're in right now, not the next budget. The current condition of that vehicle for a fire apparatus rescue unit is fair at best. I don't believe that this truck is going to pass another inspection. Spoke with the town mechanic as recent as today, and it's not going to pass inspection when it's due unless we put quite a bit of money into it. Some of the issues with that, and you have it in your packet, you have pictures of that in your packet. Some of the things that aren't in the pictures that you have are the fuel lines are bad. The tanks on the fuel tanks on there are bad. Spoke with the town mechanic today. They don't make those fuel tanks anymore. I'm sure you can find them somewhere in the country, but he had tried to do that and had no luck. Ford does not make the tanks for that vehicle anymore, and he couldn't find any other ones when he searched a little bit for tanks. As I said earlier, the replacement for this has been the CIP for this year's budget, and has been in there for years before. And the expectation from this unit is to get 25 plus years out of this new truck. Deputy Chief Denning has done a lot of research up until the last 2 or 3 weeks on rescue units that will suffice for the town. He's looked at new, he's looked at used, he's looked around the country, and he's also gone out to bid, and he's going to explain the process that he has gone through to look at the best deal for a new rescue truck for the fire department.
Good evening. I'm Deputy Chief Denning. So almost a year has taken place of myself looking for a good used heavy rescue truck. Every week I've checked online, and ones that I found that were promising, within a week they were sold. One thing, by the time, if we found a vehicle, to put a hold on it, we'd had to have people, wherever the unit was located in the U.S., fly out there, look at it, ship it back to Maine, repair any concerns, repaint and letter. And at the end of the day, we'd still have a used rescue truck. So I didn't feel comfortable spending that type of money on something used that maybe we might get 15 years out of. I then, after a while, switched and said, well, let's go with a 1-ton chassis and go with a company that can actually build these, what they call light rescue trucks, and just get some price quotes. And I believe in your packet you have that. And pretty much the prices range from $250,000 to $295,000 for these, and again, way over the top. So our budget won't be able to afford that. Just for information purposes, a new heavy rescue truck ranges from $600,000, some go up to $1 million a piece. Ellsworth's got one, I believe, that in the process of ordering or have ordered, and that's over $700,000. So I went back to kind of square one and said, all right, let's see what we can do locally with a body shop type that do these. So what we did, I sent out price quotes for chassis, and I sent out quotes for the utility body. I received one back. The other two that I sent out, we got no response from one, and I reached out 2 or 3 times. And the company in Georgia, it was shut down with COVID. And 3 to 4 weeks ago, they just recently opened their plant on a limited basis. So this company from Bangor has been excellent. They're what we need for a rescue truck. They're willing to fabricate in Waterville, ship it to Bangor, and do the finished work there. Some of you might ask, why do we need a rescue truck? And what's our rescue truck do in regards to fire department operations? I think it's kind of important people understand why we have this equipment. So as Director Gavin said, it's replacing a 1994 unit. We had extensive body work done on it 12 plus years ago due to rust. So the equipment carried on the rescue truck, I'll just briefly go down and just say what we have it and why. Rescue trucks are kind of a unique vehicle. Every vehicle in a fire department is job specific, meaning that each truck is individually tailored for any type of emergency we respond to in our community. And we go by two sets of companies, ISO, Insurance Services Office, and NFPA. They require us to do so. And what ISO does, it rates our fire insurance premiums for businesses and homeowners. And I will note, having a service truck, which they consider this a rescue service truck, we do get credit for that type of vehicle. So it helps keep the insurance premiums down. Our past chief worked very hard at getting the insurance premium level down through ISO. When I first started here, we were a class 5-9. It reclassified it, but we actually dropped to a 3-3Y. So that saves each person quite a bit of money on their homeowner's insurance. So the equipment, some of the equipment I'll just highlight real quick that we carry on the rescue truck: hazmat mitigation equipment, speedy dry, oil containment booms, shovels, traffic cones, road closure barricades. We carry a mobile cascade system to fill our SCBA bottles at the fire scenes. Also rescue airbags, vehicle stabilization equipment, confined space operation equipment, rescue tools, saws for extrication, and other stabilization tools for possible building collapses. We also carry technical rescue operations equipment for high and low angle rescue, water and ice rescue equipment, salvage and overhaul equipment, and we also carry a 12,000-pound winch for rescue and stabilization operations. So the company has worked with me really good, and they are willing to build the truck, and the new rescue with everything came in with the chassis completed, back in the door, 141,755.56.
Thanks, Mike. Any questions from any counselors?
I have one.
We will have a resolve on this coming up also, but here's a chance to ask some questions.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jim.
Is there any possibility that a vehicle like this could be replaced with a trailer?
Right now, Jim, I've got 2 trailers, and I'm trying to get rid of one to consolidate. I've got these trailers stored in different parts of the town, and I find it not very good situation. I'm trying to condense and put it on a truck that's here at the station.
Thank you.
So,
Danny?
is this in the budget currently? I was a little confused with was it in the budget? Is it in the budget now, or is this outside of the budget that we're?
It's part of the CIP budget.
Okay.
It's been in that budget. I think, Chief, you said for 2 years.
Well, it's for the 2019 budget. We've kind of pushed it down a little bit, but it's been almost a year, basically, of me researching, trying to find the right fit for the department, and just haven't had any luck.
Thank you.
Sue, do you have a question?
No, just to clarify that because this is a 25-year vehicle, I'm proposing that we spread the payments out over 4 years to just level the impact to reserves over that time. This isn't a 5-year truck. This is a 25-year truck, and so with the rates as they are now, doing it over the next 4 years would be minimal interest and flatten impact on reserves.
How often is this truck used?
Well, it goes out on just about every call we have that requires more than an engine response. I mean, we use it basically it's a utility vehicle, which you get used a lot. As far as specific numbers, I'd have to research that for you.
Well, that makes me wonder why it's a 25-year truck when our other ones are 5-year trucks. I don't understand that, but I suppose there is a reason.
Well, I'm not sure which vehicle we've had for 5 years.
I'm not either. Sue just said this is not a 5-year truck, it's a 25-year truck.
I think she was saying that, Jim, just as an explanation that I guess to clarify that maybe a normal person or a normal truck purchase for you or I may be for 5 years or for citizens, but I think this is a longer purchase is the way that I would read that.
To clarify, what I intended to say and didn't well was that I wouldn't recommend staggering funding for a vehicle that had a life for 5 years or less, but for one that has a longer term life, I would. That's all.
I see.
Well, Jim, most of our trucks are 25, 30 years, our engines, the bigger trucks, so I don't know if that answers that.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? And we will have a resolve coming up, so if you think of anything between now and then, you can certainly ask it during that time too. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
The next item is the main water contract.
what you have in your packet is the proposed new 3-year contract with Maine Water for operation of our sewer treatment plant and collection systems. It provides superintendent, backup personnel, and the only expense for staffing we have outside of this is our one employee, Michael Jackson. As I mentioned before, when I introduced the budget, there was a 10% increase in this one. However, the last contract that they have that ends in June had a provision in the contract where they could have employed increases each year of that, and they did not. The payment stayed the same over the course of the entire 3 years. There was no increase. So that is the basis for their increased personnel cost, or the basis for that 10% increase in this year. And there are 2 items that you noticed, one where I had circled water and written wastewater, and there's a second one on page 4 under 2.95 where it should say wastewater, not water. Thank you, Kathy. Kathy found the second one, I found the first one. So those items would need to be changed prior to the contract.
Any questions? And again, we have a resolve on this coming up. Any questions? The next item is a pool update.
If anyone has been up near the pool, you'll notice there's big equipment and lots of digging going on. And what has been found is that some of what we thought was wrong isn't, and other things we didn't think were wrong were. That being that the drain that was thought to have the hole in it, when they excavated that drain, they discovered that what they were saying wasn't a hole, it was a connection, and that the connection was fine. But the concrete wall at the base of the wall, where it sits on another footing type, the membrane that closed that gap was pretty much gone, and left an area along the bottom of that wall that allowed water to go out through that and into the gravel base beyond, and then out that drain behind the pool house, and that's where all that water was coming from. So they're reconfiguring the bottom of that wall to accommodate and correct the issues with water going out the bottom of that wall. So there's no additional cost to this, but they're finding some things that they didn't expect, and other things that were expected aren't what was wrong. So the bottom line is what they end up doing will make the pool stable and not leaking water anymore, and able to be used in the future. So it's been somewhat of a discovery process. They discovered the old pump house as they dug things up that was still there with the motors in it, and it had just been buried. So they're working on it actively now. So that's where we are at the moment. But
Okay. Any questions?
Are they able to project a timeline?
I believe so, Jim. The part that they're doing, they're fairly confident that's going to be, and then the pool piece, which is the painting of it, and the sand filter is going to follow right directly on it, and we should be in pretty good shape for that timeline. Because they started literally a few days ago, right after the meeting where it was approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Well, that sounds like good news. So sounds like something we should have maybe tried the first time when we asked them to dig some holes.
Well, they had to dig along the base of the wall in the front and you know, there was asphalt that was not in good shape and crumbling, and that let water go right through that into this space where the membrane had apparently at some point when they put down asphalt, it melted holes in some of the membrane. So it was a moot point at that point. You know,
Yep.
the water would get through.
All right, the next item on discussion is June 25th council meeting location.
You asked for that one.
I did. I will. I just was waiting for my cue. Looking at some of the guidelines that have been eased, I guess is the best term, and with our budget final vote coming up, and we have I believe the unique ability to host that meeting in a spot that can accommodate for what has been our normal audience at any of these over the last 5 or 6 years since I've been involved, and probably even before that, and Kathy can probably attest that when we have budget meetings, I don't believe we will exceed that. And if we do, I think, Sue, there was a process where we could still broadcast it, but we would have to limit who was coming in. I just feel it's time that, even though I love seeing you guys just head and shoulders, this is starting to look like Fox News and MSNBC here, and I think it's time for us to get together and be able to have some good discussion. I think that we have when we're together, and I think the way that the rules have been eased a little bit and allow for some social distancing. If we want to require masks and things like that, I think we can still spread out, but I think that we certainly could function as a in live person group. So I would like to propose that we have our next meeting, and I assume that Jim is okay. I saw Jim was on here. I assume that if we follow his rules, that he'll let us go up there and use his space.
That was the information that he shared with me, but as I told you in the information that I sent to you in regard to this, that it's a 50-person limit in the building, and so if the Performing Arts Center had 50, we couldn't put 15 in the gym or 5 in the gym or any in any other room in the school. It would have to be some alternate location, because those are the rules that education's rules are different than the rest of the world in many respects. Did I frame that correctly, Superintendent Boothby?
You nailed it. That's exactly the language that we have to live by.
But I also am under the understanding that we could still broadcast from there also.
Just for an example, we had to have a special meeting of the school board tonight. We were able to bring the board into the high school library and maintain the distancing, but we did it as a hybrid method where we were broadcasting across YouTube and could take phone calls back from folks at the same time. So the school board's in the same place where you are, Peter.
Yep. Okay.
But they have chosen not to do the district budget meeting. We're allowed to do that this year by law. And the concern with that is every year we're right at that 50-plus mark.
Sure.
And to try to set up live synchronous broadcasting in multiple locations would challenge us.
And the difference is you guys are actually asking folks to vote.
Right.
So where we're not, I guess, but we're asking folks to participate if they want. So.
Sure.
Yep.
But we
certainly will do it.
I was going to say, we wouldn't be able to be broadcast as we are today, right? You wouldn't see any of us. Correct, Sue? Because we have to be spaced out.
At the school, I'm not sure how the Performing Arts Center video system works. Perhaps Jim Morrill or Jim Boothby could explain it. I think that the stuff from there goes onto YouTube, not onto our regular video stream. So it's a YouTube. Is that correct, Jim?
The tech folks have developed a process where they can get it from YouTube onto the public access channel. We used a device tonight called an OWL, which actually sits in the middle of the school board members, and it'll turn and be able to use a fisheye camera and have at least 3 people showing up at each time. And it'll move and it'll adapt to the voice in the room. It's a piece of equipment that we've had, and we have not, we met in the high school library. We did not meet at the Performing Arts Center. So, but I think Jim Morrow will have to work through the tech specs for you.
Is to see, because what's important for us is that it can be broadcast live on our, not
Right.
just the local cable channel. That has less viewership, I think, or maybe more, I don't know. But that we do know that the internet-based town hall streams has a fairly high response rate. So we can work with, I haven't discussed the technical specifications of this with our
Well,
IT person.
I mean, here's my other thought is we all have town issued computers, and if we run our own computer, I assume there's enough bandwidth there, isn't there, Jim, that if we all logged into this same system here and just had our computers in front of us, but we're actually talking amongst ourselves, would that sort of system work if that's where we have to go to?
Again,
Could we
I
do
think
a
you need Jim
Zoom
Morrow.
meeting, but you're talking about doing a Zoom meeting, but being in person at the same time, not Zoom, but
Yeah.
meeting. But
Yeah.
we could do that.
I think Sue, if I can, and again, I'll open up, but I think if you could talk to Jim to see what would be the best way, and any counselors have anything they want to add, please.
I think it's a good idea.
Danny, yeah.
I agree. I'd really like to get in a meeting setting now that they've relaxed some of the rules.
Is everybody okay with that? I don't hear any
Yeah.
no's.
Good.
Okay.
I think it's important.
I've got no problem with it, Peter.
Okay. I think you're okay, you said, Jim?
Yes, I'm fine, yes.
Okay. And who am I missing?
I'm okay with it.
Oh, there you are, Paul. I didn't see
Yep.
you.
The only thing that we'd have to be careful of, unfortunately, I spend a lot of my time on these meetings lately. The only thing we'd have to be careful with the scenario you presented, Peter, is that we'd have to be really good about muting ourselves when we're not
Right.
talking, or you'd get that feedback.
Get the feedback. Yeah, exactly. So I would like to pursue what the superintendent, what they had, if that works, if that's the best thing. But if not, I think we can have a fallback. So, all right. Well, hearing nothing else, and it sounds like everybody's comfortable, we'll attempt to give it a whirl up there on the 25th then. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to agenda items. The first one is to approve Resolve 2020-55 to approve the contract with Maine Water for management of the sewer treatment plant and collection system for a 3-year period.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything promoting the folks, Sue?
You're muted,
Okay.
Steve.
You're muted, but I assume you said no.
I said no.
Yeah. Any comments from the counselors on this? All right, around the room, Jake?
Mark Eastman,
Approve.
Jim Morrison,
Approve.
Paul Bissonnette,
Approve.
Peter Stewart,
Approve?
Dan Ormsby,
Approve.
Kathy Downs,
Approve.
Ed Rankin,
Approve.
Mayor
Our
Stewart,
next item is to approve Resolve 2020-56 to approve the purchase of a fire department rescue truck to be funded by a 4-year loan. How would the council like that?
Motion approved.
Second.
We We have a motion and a second. Anything on this one, Sue?
No.
Any more questions? I believe the chief and the deputy chief are still around if anybody has any more questions or comments.
The only thing I would ask, Mayor Stewart, is I know you have a motion and a second on the table. I'm just wondering about agenda item 7E, the recreation facilities, if we're going to talk about that.
Thank you, Jacob.
I didn't have that on my agenda on my piece.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's the one that I sent out to add an item to the agenda on item 7E to talk about, 7E.
Yep. I read it. I just forgot it was on the agenda.
Okay.
We will come back to that if that is.
You're not alone.
Yeah, I know. Thanks, Jake.
Yep.
So we had the motion and the second. We will continue on with this here, and then we will return back. So again, I don't think we had anything else from the council on this. So you can go around the room, Jake.
Mark Eastman,
Approve.
Jim Morrison,
Approve.
Paul Bissonnette,
Approve.
Peter Stewart,
Approve.
Dan Ormsby,
Approve.
Kathy Downs,
Approve.
Ed Rankin.
Approve.
All right.
7E is in regard to the reopening plan for recreational facilities
Yep.
and playgrounds.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you have in your packet information from our school superintendent and from our public safety director. And the discussion is how the council wants to move forward. Chief Gagan, could you participate in this? Thank you.
So before we get, I assume the chief is still there. I can't see him
Yes.
right now, but the impetus for this, Sue, is because of the number of calls that you've been receiving, and
Not just me. I think that public safety is also has, but I have received many calls from people asking why the kids can't play on the playground and why the basketball courts are closed if other activities in other communities of that nature are open. And the state, to my understanding, has pretty much left it to municipalities to figure out that path forward. There are some requirements, but decisions regarding these things are now at the local level. Is that correct, Director Gagan?
That is correct. The governor's basically left it up to the municipalities, and the CDC has put out recommended guidelines as far as outdoor activities and social distancing. And if you can't social distance with the 6 feet, you should wear a face covering and things of that nature. So there are people in the town wondering when we're going to open up. There are people in the town wondering if we're going to open up. There are people in the town that probably are not for opening up. So I do know of some of the towns around us have opened up. And that's why I put that draft together this morning for Town Manager Lassard, just as a recommendation. And there are two different things here that we need to remember is that on our fields, as you can see, I tried to limit it to local participation with our teams, with students and coaches that participate with RSU 25. And they did that so that we're not inviting other people from other towns or other counties or other states to our fields, because I have taken calls in my office from organizations wanting to know if they can use our fields because they have 85 teams in the league and they can't find any fields to play on in the state of Maine. So I told them that we were having the meeting tonight. It would probably be discussed, but I wasn't sure that we're going to invite out of state or teams or out of town teams to our fields. So I put the recommendation in there, basically to keep it local, to put it in the hands of the coaches that are organizing these workouts or practices only, no games to speak of, so that the kids in the community can open up a little bit, get out there, be organized, and have someone in charge of these events as they go on. The scheduling for the fields has gone through the Recreation Department and the RSU hand in hand. So each field is scheduled. You have to schedule a time for the fields and sign up for a time. So I think that would take care of us knowing who's on a field. If by chance there was an out-of-town team on a field, that would be up to the police department basically to find out who they are on the field, what they're doing there, if they signed up, and if they're not from town, they'd have to go by the rules, and at this time, they wouldn't be allowed to use that field. Having said that, when we switch over to playgrounds, we're talking about a totally different story here. As far as kids and families and social distancing and masks and playgrounds, totally different from fields. You don't really have one person in charge of the activity. It could be 10 different families with 3 different kids each. And it's hard to keep kids away from kids. And I know the parents will probably do their best, but we're talking about 2 different situations here. And I wanted to make sure that everyone knows that. As far as policing it, the whole thing in the state right now is educational. It's not really enforcement to speak of unless people just don't want to go by the rules after they're educated. Having said that, the police department isn't in the form of riding around and checking and taking kids off playgrounds. We want to see kids on playgrounds. We want to talk to kids on playgrounds. And I'm not sure that we can do that and police it with parents. I would hope that the community would do it. The playground is a place with high intensity. Kids are having a good time. They want to be together. So it's very different. Playgrounds are going to be very difficult. Other than that, I would love to see, you're not going to have anyone that wants things to open up more than us. I can tell you that. To get people out and about and relaxing a little bit, so to speak. But again, 2 different scenarios. Fields and playgrounds are 2 different events.
And just talking to the superintendent real quick, this is strictly outside, correct, Jim? No gyms on the inside or anything going to be available anyway, correct?
That is correct, Peter. And the guidelines for MPA are totally different. There's absolutely no group activity until July 6th. And then that activity is limited to no more than 10 at a time. And once we start establishing activities with school teams 10 at a time, they're to stay in those cohorts. So if you have a group of 10 kids that are outside and doing fitness programs, whatever activities, the plan now is, according to the MPA, is that 10 stays together as a cohort. So there's all different types of restrictions when it comes to schools and high school athletics as far as field use goes. But we're not going to open up the gymnasiums. And we, too, have had people from the outside asking to use facilities. We've denied it. One of the things that I know I have the honor of sitting as a chair of the Property and Casualty Trust for Maine School Management. We require, if someone's going to use a facility, we're going to be asking them for proof of insurance for infectious disease. A lot of carriers are refusing to provide that coverage. So it's more than just a liability insurance. So that should be a consideration for the town as well.
I see a lot of open mics, so I assume we got some questions. Danny, you get your finger up first.
Sue, what's our liability when it comes to the playgrounds and fields? Like, are we liable for any of that?
I believe we have coverage for infectious diseases, but municipalities have tort claims protection from just about everything in the free world, up to the first $400,000 in just about anything is not, towns are not liable for those in the way that education educational facilities may be, but towns are protected by the Maine Tort Claims Act unless we've taken a deliberate act to do something stupid. We're pretty much covered. Superintendent Boothby just raised the issue of infectious disease coverage, and I will check on that for our facilities, but I do know that part of our immunity is through the Maine Tort Claims Act.
So in saying that, I feel as though we need to let the adults and parents in the community make up the decisions for their kids and be able to open those things up so that our kids have something to do.
Paul?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I don't disagree with Dan, but I think the communication around that needs to be spot on. I think we need to be very clear that that's in fact what we are doing if we're going to do that we are leaving it up to the adults to make the decisions for their children and not claim anything otherwise, not state that, there's going to be any enforcement of any policy. Because quite frankly, and thank you, Chief Gagan, for clarifying, that's not going to happen. We're not going to be checking IDs. We're not going to be, making sure, again, people are from town or all of those things. We're not going to be enforcing social distancing on playgrounds. And for anybody to have the expectation that we may be doing so is, to me, dangerous. And so I think just as long as we are crystal clear about that, and maybe even have it posted on our playgrounds, just so that we're crystal clear on that. And then the adults can, back to Councilor Ormsby's point, can make that educated decision as to however they want to, make the decision they want to make with all the facts. And the facts, it sounds like the facts in this case would be, we aren't checking IDs, the police aren't going to be there enforcing things, et cetera, et cetera. And as long as everybody's crystal clear on that and we do our part on the communication, I suppose I'm fine with it.
My question would be, how balanced are the requests for opening and against opening? Is there a balanced amount, or are there more people that want to open it? Are there less people that want to open it? Or how's it looking as far as that goes?
I don't have the exact numbers, Jim, but I can tell you that if I had to guess, it's like 50-50. It really is. It's 50-50. You have some people that really want to open, and then when places open, we have the other 50% that are calling us to enforce the social distancing and the masks and that. So I would say at this point, my guess is that it's 50-50. It's pretty balanced.
And my next question would be, are we looking at any organized team sports being opened up, for instance, Little League or anything like that?
As far as the Little League field itself, and that Little League program is a private field. The town doesn't own that field, so it's really up to them. As far as I know, a lot of places have canceled their Little League season. But as far as structured sports and stuff, I haven't got a call from the YMCA. Is actually open. They have a full plan, a full book. They have the CDC guidelines. They've installed new sinks, outdoor sinks. They have proper staff for the number of kids, and they are opening on Monday. So you might see them all playing on the fields or on the basketball court, but they will be social distance. Balls will be clean. They did submit something to me saying this is the plan. As far as team sports goes, Mr. Boothby said none of the high school teams are allowed to go out anywhere until July 6th. So after July 6th, I'm not sure what will happen. Mr. Boothby can comment on that more.
If I may, the plan as proposed by the MPA is June 15th to July 5th, virtual meetings only with players for workouts. July 6th through July 19th, sports, non-specific workouts allows only conditioning and no use of any balls, sticks, or other implements. From July 20th to August 1st, sports-specific workouts. This will allow for only conditioning and no use of balls or equipment. And that's where they have it. This is all to be with pods of 10 players. 10 players have to stay together for the workouts until August 1st. They may not switch pods. That's the information we have at this point. So when it refers to team sports, everything. There's not supposed to be, according to the MPA, for school teams. And again, we're under that guidance. We're not going to have 7-on-7 football with actual passing league. We're not going to have, the soccer teams out scrimmaging. Cross-country team, their feet is what they work with, so they can run together. But that's where we're at.
And that was my point as far as the policing part of it with fields as opposed to playgrounds, is that we have no issue whatsoever that if we do get a call or we see it, and whoever's in charge of those fields and those workouts, when they do happen, we have no problem if we're in the area or get a call and answering the call to say, educate them and say, we've had the call, you're in charge of this event, and please take care of it. That was my point of the policing with the fields. The playgrounds is a whole nother story, as we discussed.
Now, do we feel that the public in general has enough safety conscious in mind to keep this at a level where we don't have to worry?
I would think that they would, but my fear is that once we open it up, that people haven't seen each other in a long time and things of that nature. So at the beginning, I would think that we may field a lot of calls on it, but as you've all said, I would hope that the parents would be parents and make it work.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll comment quickly, Peter. I think, personally, it's a step in the right direction, but I'd have to really side with Paul on, we need to be very, very clear that what we're doing and what the rules are going to be, and to make sure they know that this is using common sense as a parent. If they don't want their kids next to anyone, then I think it'd be up to that parent to pull them away. I mean, they could still play in the playground, and parents are just going to have to be a little more on top of things. Maybe not as relaxed as we're used to, but I think it is a good step in the right direction, my opinion.
Anybody else? My 2 cents are along those lines also. Is we've been in this situation since mid-March, and there's been no enforcement. Folks have sort of done what they're supposed to do because that's what they wanted to do and they felt was right for them. And opening up some spaces, I think there's enough. I think that people are going to think enough that if I want to do it, I'm okay with doing it, and if I don't, then I don't have to go. We're not forcing anybody to do anything, but we're giving an opportunity, like Ed said, to at least go in the right direction to at least open some of this stuff up. And I'm not gonna lie, is like we've seen other states and things happen. There's nothing that says we may end up shutting this back down again. And I think if we have the rules in place, it is the purview of the town that if it's just not working right and there's issues going on, or we get the chief and the town manager and we get a bunch of complaints or people can't do those things correctly, we could turn around and shut it down again if we have to. I don't think we're going to be there, but I think just like it was shut down because of an edict in mid-March, those things have been loosened a little bit, and I think the ability is there to do that. So.
And I will just say that I'm really glad that we're having these discussions, and that we can get a proposal put together so that people know what the rules are, because there have been other communities, I'm not sure if they've had these discussions in these meetings, but that has happened where they've opened things up, they've got things down, they've opened things up, so at least we can put the rules out there and be fair to the citizens and let them know what the rules are, and I'm in hopes that we don't have to shut it down at all also.
I mean, the waterfront has been open since we started, right? And folks have been out there enjoying that and exercising and doing those things. I mean, the trails up at Miles Lane, this is just another piece of our recreation facilities that I think we can open up and allow those things to happen.
And that is correct. Those have been open. We have fielded calls at places that have opened when they've opened. We've done exactly what we proposed to do and educated people, and people have worked with us very well. We've educated them on what should be done, or what's recommended, I should say.
Yeah, Paul.
Just a quick question, and I'm asking the question because I don't know the answer. Should we consider on the playground piece if having kids only be there with adults? I know that goes against how the playgrounds have been run in the past, and I'm not saying that I'm necessarily for that, but it probably should at least be discussed whether that's what we want to do or not, and if we don't, or we do, why or why not, because some of this behavior, or the behaviors that we may be worried about, and we're trusting parents to be parents, well, in the middle of July when it's 85 degrees and mom and dad are working and the playground's open, well, kids have been going to the playground or the pool for years and years. One of those options is gone this year, so that leaves the playground. I'm just bringing that up because I don't want it to be something that we think of after the fact.
I think that's a very valid point, is that even with the fields, that's why I wanted to put in with an adult there overseeing this, because if we have a tackle football game with 10 kids at a field, and we see it, we're gonna stop by and tell them that it's not permitted. Sorry, it's not permitted at this time. So it's a valid point. If you let the kids just go, then who's to watch them and tell them not to hang out on the monkey bars type thing. So it's a good point.
That goes back to my point earlier too. How do you enforce that?
Well, it's the same thing, Paul, as the field. If we're driving by the playground and we see 10 kids there with no parents, unfortunately, we're going to have to stop, educate them, and tell them, you need a parent here. And it's a good thing, like you said, to set that rule that you're going to be here for the next month or so or whatever, then there has to be an adult present with you.
Danny, do you have something?
I was just going to go back to the point again that Paul had said, that who's going to enforce it, and is that going to put more of a load on your guys going through and having to stop and tell kids to get off the playground if they're not with a parent?
It will, but it's not something that I don't think that we can take care of. It will certainly, but we're fielding calls on a weekly basis now, so we'll take them as they come and educate the kids the best we can.
Jim, is it still the playground up to the Miles Lane School? And is
Yes,
that
sir.
yours? Is that
That's
yours?
ours.
Now, are you planning on opening that, or?
Not at this time. See, one of the things that is going to be very confusing for people, schools, we're under a whole different level of guidelines and restrictions. And it's been a frustration for me right along through this, because you just heard what I'm talking about with high school sports. Well, that's different than summer camps or recreation activities. The daycares are under different restrictions than I am. And where we're shared facilities, which worked wonderful for this community, we're in a different place now. And so we have a whole different level of restrictions than what you possibly will have as a town.
Do you have proper notifications in place there now that they're not to use those facilities?
Right now, Jim, we've done the same thing that's been done with the playground in town. Is we've got a caution taped off. Chief Gagan and his crew helped us with that. I am in the process of, through our insurance trust, we have some recommendations of the signage that needs to go up on our playgrounds and such, which we will be installing.
Just to be clear with the people that might think that because we've opened up some fields and facilities, they might think that's ready too,
And I think that's a very fair observation, Jim. And I'm sure we're going to have some folks with a question saying, why is it okay here, but it's not okay there?
Certainly.
And that's another valid point to consider when you make this decision, is that we've got 3 or 4 playgrounds in town. If we open up one of them, it's going to be like the Bangor State Fair. So just to consider it.
Peter, are we going to set an age requirement on this as part of this?
I think we're looking more at parent participation to, so from what I'm hearing, I think we want to have an adult, it is getting onerous and it's tough, but I think to ease into it, maybe that is the way to go, is that you've got to be under adult supervision. So I don't want to say that we won't have 2-year-olds running around up there, hopefully without parents.
What do we foresee them using the fields for if they're not allowed to use a ball of any type?
So Jim, that's where the discrepancy comes. So if they're participating with a organized sport underneath the guidelines of the schools, that's the rules. But if you've got a couple of neighborhood kids that want to get together and go toss a ball or kick a ball around, there's no restriction against that. I mean, right now, there's times I've gone by and I've seen a couple of kids out on the soccer field just kicking a ball, perfectly behaving fantastic. It's what you want to see. That's fine. But if they are underneath the guise and supervision of a school program, it's a whole different set of rules.
Yep.
And having said that, you're going to see the Y program, as I said, opening on Monday. They have enough staff leaders there for kids and stuff, and you're going to see them playing certain games with a ball, but that ball is going to be cleaned every other time, so it's a chore. They're going to have their work cut out for them, but they want to get it open and get the kids out there for the summer. So we're gonna work on it, see how it goes.
Thank you.
I think this comes down to personal responsibility and personal choice. We're going to open some things up, and folks can choose to follow the rules or the procedures that we have in place, and make that conscious decision to do that. And I think with enough education, if it's the chief and his guys riding around and talking every once in a while, I think we're gonna be okay. I guess before we sit here and say on Thursday night, on June 11th, that we're good to go, I think the draft that the chief had, I think, needs to be tweaked a little bit with some of the discussions we had. And if I can charge Sean and Sue to take a blush at that, and then roll that back out again, is that comfortable with everybody? I mean, there was no council decision to close these things down. That was sort of given to us, and we sort of just operating on state guidelines on how to open these things up. So I think if we see something we're comfortable with it, I think that's a purview of the town manager and the chief to be able to follow those guidelines and make those decisions. I think this was a discussion for us to have input, to make sure that we're all comfortable as the council. But I think following these directions, and Jim, I mean, even in schools, it's different for middle school. Middle school doesn't fall under the purview of the MPA, so you're chasing a different set of rules there.
Absolutely. So it's going to be interesting. Just for your information, we will be starting in a couple of weeks. I'm pulling together different groups of staff folks, and I'll also get some representation from parents about planning for reintegration back to school. And the guidelines from the state just came out today. They've been revised. They've changed since the original draft I saw. So it's a moving target.
Certainly.
The other issue, Mr. Mayor, is that I put in there, and I'm sure you've all read, is that we've had calls on the fitness center. Our fitness center is in a school. So our fitness center is different than anyone in the state. It's not just a fitness center in some buildings. It's fitness centers are going to be allowed to open in the next week or two. Ours is in a school, and they may already be open, but ours is a different situation because it's located in the school in which they have a different set of rules. So just so the public is aware of that.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, one last thing. I agree with everything you said. Summing up, I would like to be kept via email or whatever, just abreast of the communication strategy and the enforcement strategy. I think if the council would be kept in the loop on that, not that we wouldn't be, but I want to make sure that I'm ahead of that, and I'm sure the other councilors do too.
So not seeing any sideways head action, I think we're okay to sort of go ahead with this plan, and we'll go from there.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. That took care of 7E, correct, Sue?
Yes, it did.
All right, so we still have one resolved, Jacob? Oh, I'm sorry, Sue. Did we have anything from outside that came in on this at all, or?
No.
Okay, and this may generate some stuff, you know, when we, now that we've discussed it, some folks may have some input too, and I'm sure we'll have the opportunity to hear about that, so. The next item on the agenda items is to approve Resolve 2020-57 to approve a microloan for DMCC Enterprises. I saw Richard standing back there. There he is.
You're muted, Rich.
We could only hope.
Be nice.
You were muted, but I was. Great to see you all. What you have in front of you is a microloan application for DMCC Enterprises. They were formerly located on Main Street and have purchased the property at 100 US Route 1. It is on the corner of US Route 1 and Nicholson Avenue. I believe it used to be a child care center or daycare center. Dennis Mason and Cecilia Pinto Mason are part of this application here. I will say when we had a meeting with Angus King's office and Susan Collins' office, Cecilia was very helpful for knowing accounting and background stuff, and she's been a very good business and a business partner in town for clients and just for business owners alike who may not be clients with her knowledge. They're seeking microloan funds in the amount of $6,000, $4,500 to replace sewer line at the building, and roughly $1,500 to fill in and beautify the spot. Cecilia and Dennis are on the call if you have any questions for them or myself. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for the Masons or Rich? Rich, another question I've got, and maybe what are the terms of that?
Yes, they requested a 36-month payoff, and the town only charges what the U.S. prime interest rate is. The town's not in it to be a bank. We play fair, and it's basically to offset the interest that we would lose with the money not being in the account. So when I grabbed the information for the loan, I actually grabbed the application only and not the full terms. But
that's fine.
We'll have it available.
And I assume the Masons, that's amicable to them. They just need our approval on this, correct?
Yes, that's correct. We would be signing, because the town office is closed on Friday. We would be doing the paperwork on Monday. They would come down to the, one of them only would need to come down to the town office on Monday, and we could meet in the required conference room where we have the space. Cecilia would like to ask a question.
Certainly, go ahead. I was just going to open it up to her.
Great, thank you. And thank you for considering Dennis's and I's application for this microloan. We have taken the endeavor of purchasing the building to increase our business. It also has a couple of rentals that are full right now. The building itself is generating about $2,400 in rents. I've been doing the accounting for Marie Pearson on this building for about 3 years, and it does pay for itself. We personally, in leasehold improvements in this building, have put $14,000 in between hot water heaters and, painting and repairing and whatever is needed to button up the building. The $6,000 will help to do the sewer because it has come disconnected in a place that the reason it's so much is it's on the lawn area and it's down a little far. Then, of course, we don't want to leave a gaping hole in the lawn to make it unpresentable for my clients, but also the town. So we're asking for the $6,000 loan to repair that. That being said, we are asking for 3 years, but with the business itself improving like it has throughout the last 5 years, we think we will probably be able to pay it sooner, but because of the pandemic and everything that's going on, I'm doing a lot of pro bono work for the restaurants and Friars, Glenn's, a few other ones, because right now they really have not been able to afford to get the bookkeeping and everything else still going, even though they're continuing with the income that they're making. So that being said, that is the reason we are asking for the microloan, because we have put so much into the building and want to keep this going to be profitable for not only the building but also our business. So we do again appreciate the opportunity to present, our application for the loan. And thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from any councilors? Jake, did I have a motion and a second on this yet? I will ask for that, please.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Anything else from the councilors? Mr. and Mrs. Mason, thank you very much. Around the room, Jake?
Mark Eastman,
Approve.
Jim Morrison,
Approve.
Paul Bissonnette,
Approve.
Peter Stewart,
Approve.
Dan Ormsby,
Approve.
Kathy Downs,
Approve.
Ed Rankin.
Approve.
Good luck, Mr. and Mrs. Mason. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if you don't mind, we're going to exit because some of the things you're discussing, we, are not involved in. And again, thank you very much for your consideration in this.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Item 9 is appointment of Jacob Grant as election warden for July 14th, 2020 election. Oh, Dan, sorry.
Did we actually vote on A? I think we had a motion and a second, and then we went back to the fields and stuff. I don't think we actually voted on the sewer treatment, did we, Jacob?
On
The
we
agenda.
got through A. I stopped Mayor Stewart in the middle of 8B. But you guys kept on. You voted on that, and then you went back.
So the fire truck, we did vote on it. Okay, sorry, I was confused for a second.
Yep.
That happens when I run meetings. Don't let it bother you. All right. Appointment of Jacob Grant as election warden for the July 14th, 2020 election.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other volunteers? Not seeing any. You want to go around the room, Jake?
Mark
I assume
Eastman.
you need to vote. You need to vote on this, I assume.
Yes.
Yep.
Approve.
Jim Morrison,
Approve.
Paul Bissonnette,
Approve.
Peter Stewart,
Approve.
Dan Ormsby,
Approve.
Kathy Downs,
Approve.
Ed Rankin.
Approve.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Next is a board member needed for the appeals board.
We had a resignation from the appeals board, and our code officer, we don't have any outstanding appeals, but we do need to fill that slot. So I'm just letting you all know that if there's anyone you know, we will be putting it in the enterprise that we're looking for a member of the appeals board as well. Just letting you know that and anyone out there in internet or TV land who's interested in serving on the town's appeals board, you can pick up an application at the town office or get one off our website and turn that in.
Great, thank you. No quick claims or deeds, department head reports, town manager report. I saw you had a report, Sue.
I do, the shortest report on record, because it took a lot of today to try and get the PowerPoint finished. The first is that we've had one nomination from the public for the Spirit of America Award that we talked about at the last meeting, and that is for the Bucksport Enterprise and Don Houghton and Sandy Holmes. I have not had any other input. Counselors haven't let me know any, but they've certainly done a great job during this pandemic and in providing information, but also are doing a lot for the school kids and the graduation things too. And we're pretty fortunate to have a local newspaper. So many have gone out of business. So that's our one nomination for that. And finally, I received notification today that the appeal of the original court decision in the Green lawsuit was decided, and the original judgment was affirmed. I've attached a copy of the decision, and according to our attorney, there are no more avenues to reopen the question of this easement, which is now permanent. So it's been a while since 2017, but we are at the end of the road on the easement. That does not preclude anyone from suing us on any other matter, but the particulars of that easement and its value and its all of those things, that issue is over.
Okay. Any questions on Sue's or anybody else's reports? Again, I'd like to thank all the department heads for taking the time just to give a synopsis on what they do, and I sort of shows that we're out there doing good work still at this time. So, public hearings or approval of any licenses. We got a couple of public hearings coming up next meeting, Sue, as I see on the agenda.
Yes, I put those in the wrong place. They should have been under set public hearings but they're down under upcoming public hearings. But they're one for the Appendix B amendment that we discussed at the last council meeting, and then you'll need to set the public hearing for the general fund, marina, and sewer budgets for the 25th.
Okay. We don't have any license or anything that I've missed in any emails or anything, correct? All right.
No.
Discussion items not on the agenda for the council and the public. Anything out there that anybody say anything in on, Sue?
No. You did have. I spent the last couple of hours today scanning and posting additional emails and other things that came in regard to elements of the budget. They're on the website. They're on your Google Drive. Those got forwarded right up until just before this meeting. And we also had a report from our Economic and Community Development Director, which I hope you all have had a chance to read. Rich is a pretty busy guy and does a lot for this community. So that was out there as well. But other than, I don't have any messages or phone calls in regard to.
And again, I think all of those emails dealt with a budget item. So if you haven't had a chance to look at those, please do, and we can have a discussion when we're talking about the budget at our next meeting. Certainly, there's nothing it's not on the agenda tonight, so it's open for discussion for you folks. If you've got anything you want to talk about, by all means, we'll open it up there.
I have something I'd like to discuss.
Yeah, Jim.
Section 2.03 in the charter, as a matter of fact, is compensation for council members. That was effective in July 1 of 1988. I was wondering if anybody thought it might be fair to raise that a little bit.
When I first got on the council 6 years ago, Jim, there was a couple councilors that brought up that we should actually give our pay back. So I think that's that sort of got dropped after that. It hasn't been discussed. I've looked at that several times. That it's been over 30 years that it has been the same. And again, none of us are going to get rich doing any of this.
No.
It is certainly a nominal fee for the time and the effort. I would leave that up to the council. And obviously, it's a charter change, and it'd have to go through the right process. But if it's a discussion that some of you folk that we wanted to have, then I certainly would not discourage it.
If I may, if that's something that the council wants considered, if we have that language through the process by the end of August, then it could go on the November as a referendum question to update that. So, Councilor Morrison, if you have some suggestions for what those numbers maybe ought to be, if I don't know where our meeting schedule is going to go after June 25th. That's in person. If it's going to stay in person, or if it's going to revert to Zoom or whatever. At the time we go back to in person, I think that's when the committee process comes back, and that would be an opportunity for that as well. But as long as if the council has an appetite for looking at that could be, and it could be completed by the end of August, we could get it on as a referendum.
I just felt that after 32 years, it might be something that we might want to kick the rust off from, you know.
I think it's something to talk about anyway, Jim. So yes, I think we can start the process, and if we maybe not on the 25th meeting, but maybe that first meeting in July, we can set it up for either, if we're in person, a committee assignment, or if we're back at Zoom because things have changed or we're not comfortable with that, then we can discuss it and other things. But I think not seeing again any sideways head shaking, I think at least we can have the discussion, and we may have some public input on that also. So
yeah, I expect so.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Anything else that is not on the agenda that anybody would like to talk about?
Excuse me, the budget review and send a public hearing. It takes an actual vote to send these budgets to public hearing, what it is that you're going to send to public hearing. So tonight is an opportunity for setting whatever budget you're going to have as a public hearing. The public hearing is on the 25th, so tonight is the time when you decide what's in those budgets. And I have my PowerPoint presentation that we talked about at the last meeting that I would like to do, and then the council could decide or discuss any items that they want to add to or remove from sewer, general fund, or the marina budgets. We have to have a specific number, a specific item to advertise, and that's what we have.
And I may have misspoke. I just wanted, we're not voting on the budget tonight, but we're actually deciding what we want on the budget to vote on at our next meeting.
That's correct.
Yeah. So if I have nothing else from other discussion items, I don't see anything else. I'll let you, Sue, jump right into that.
Okay. Well, the PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to have to remember in just a minute how to do this. Present my entire screen.
And if it's okay with the council, if we can let Sue sort of get through each of the cost centers first, and then talk about if you got a concern or any comments on any of those, at least see if we can get through each part of the budget We won't hold everything till the end because that gets confusing, but if we can wait to get you each part, then we should be able to have a comment. So thank you.
Okay, first, since I can't see any of you, can you all see the first slide of the PowerPoint?
No.
No.
Well, that's not helpful. Hold on, I hear help coming. Okay, here's my thing. I did.
Mr. Mayor, I'm stepping away just for a minute to fill my water glass, but I can still hear.
10-4.
I'll be right back. Yep.
It's coming up now, Sue.
Okay, well, let me find it now.
There you go.
Is that, can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see it
Yeah.
better?
There you go.
All right, I am no techno genius. So the PowerPoint, our budget goals were similar to last year, and the year before that, and the year before that, and every year I've been here, which is it's always no mill rate increase, and particularly in this year, which is more challenging. We were looking to improve online information availability for things such as our assessing records, improvements at the waterfront, many of which Rich outlined in his memo to you, our infrastructure improvements, our road project, which will be underway this year, and continuing to provide full community services. In 19 and 20, we completed the solar project at the sewer treatment plant, made major changes to public safety model for police, fire, EMS, and dispatch. Our assessor resigned and was replaced. Our code enforcement officer resigned and was replaced. And on a high note, Whole Oceans project received local planning board approval. We've completed the cable and internet project on Millvale and Bucks Mills Road. A grant was received to engineer year-round floats at the town dock. Our Pay It Forward plan to help residents who lost their jobs and small businesses and seniors has been very popular. And we received a grant for SCBA units for the fire department. This is certainly not a comprehensive list, but it's just some of the high points. Revenue impacts to this budget. I have increased excise tax budgeted by $40,000 to reflect the significant increase in excise tax that we've seen this year, and therefore we'll be seeing next. Revenue sharing has been left at the current level in anticipation that the promised increase in rate at the state level will not happen. Our RSU 25 budget impact to Bucksport is $63,124 less than for 1920 as proposed. And the good news for homeowners is that the homestead exemption increased in this year from $20,000 to $25,000 for Maine homeowners who have owned their home for at least 1 year by April 1st, 2020, which at the current mill rate will result in an $81.50 reduction in property taxes. The town receives numerous revenues from the state. Two of those, homestead reimbursement and Betty reimbursement, are revenues that are not initially considered offsets to the budget. They're utilized when the mill rate is set as add-ons afterwards. State revenue sharing, as I said, it was left the same. Our veterans reimbursement for veterans exemptions is at $4,000, and our tree growth reimbursement for land and tree growth that is taxed at a lower rate and reimbursed to us by the state. So we receive total state revenues or anticipate receiving total state revenues of $831,944. As presented, this budget utilizes $650,000 in fund balance. Approximately half of that will be offset by the unexpended funds from the 1920 budget, and $287,000 of the proposed budget are funds that are being budgeted to be put into reserve. So the net impact to assets for the community by this funding method is pretty much a wash. I'm recommending that we use $100,000 from the education designated reserve to offset the RSU budget, and $100,000 from the budget stabilization reserve to avoid a mill rate increase. And also recommending the use of $200,000 in revenue sharing reserve.
So can you speak real quick? Can you speak real quick to what the budget stabilization fund is and where that comes from?
I didn't create it. It's been on the books for some time. There's $550,000 in it, and it appears to have been at some time just a set off from the undesignated fund balance. Bucksport has a number of funds that are set aside that otherwise might have just been part of fund balance. That is one of them. It's inherited. I don't know its origin.
Do we contribute to it each year?
No.
So that's at some point that will be a drawdown.
Well, it's $550,000, and this is the first year that we've utilized it in the 5 years that I've been here. It's not an annual use fund.
But it's not part of our investment fund or anything like that. It's just sort of is it in a money market?
It's all part of it. It's all of our money is in CDs, and the reserves that are department reserves are in the investment accounts that we are at 75% fixed equities and 25% stock market type things. Those are our department reserves. All of the other money is accounted for separately, but commingled in CDs and that the town holds for those purposes. Yeah, they're the money is all accounted for separately, but it's not in every account isn't in some different bank or something.
I'm just wondering, is it more feasible just to make it one pot of money that we instead of having this fund that we don't know where it came from, we just incorporate that into our.
That would be in the same way that we went through your reserves and reallocated things and bought an ambulance or big part of an ambulance with monies that were in reserves that were no longer needed.
Yeah.
We can certainly have a meeting at which you discuss your general ledger accounts and
I think
those that you want to consolidate.
I think it's probably time if we have funds or things that are out there that we don't know where they came from. Maybe it's time to take a look at that as a group. So we don't have to do that tonight, obviously, but at some point in the future, I think it's something we look at. Thank you.
Yes, I wanted to mention also at this point that I had received a question from a counselor this afternoon in regard to having had people ask how much does the town still have we spent all our fund balance, what are we doing? And the answer is we still have approximately $6 million in undesignated fund balance. And so utilization of this will be a net impact of about $300,000. So it's still extremely healthy since 5 years ago it was you used $2 million and took it down to $6 million, and it's still pretty close to that amount. So any other questions on that before we get into just what the budgets are? I guess not. So many of our budgets have revenue offsets. Administration, as you see from the screen, has all manner of excise tax, boat excise tax, and auto reg fees, and tax lien costs, and those copier fees and planning board fees. And all of these revenues are considered under general government because general government includes multiple accounts. So the total offsets to general government are $434,125, with a net amount left after the current year revenue offsets of $1,498,311. The fire EMS department, which is consolidated for the first time this year under one department, has a budget of $838,688 and total revenue offsets of $629,000 between the fire protection subsidies we receive from Verona, the ambulance subsidies we receive from Orland, and our ambulance user fees, which we receive, as well as the third year of the FEMA grant offset, which is $37,000. We also have an $18,000 COVID revenue loss offset. We were allowed to apply for any estimated revenue loss, and between March and April, our ambulance runs took a big hit of many fewer runs, with an estimated revenue loss of $18,000, and we have applied for that and will be receiving that in after July 1. Our public safety building budget, $53,963. And then police, public safety, and dispatch lumped together is the offsets to those budgets are $59,000. The police revenue is the revenue that we receive as reimbursement from RSU 25 for the cost of the school resource officer, and animal fees are fees paid for use of our animal shelter, with a total amount after revenues of $855,901. Our highway expense, our highway budget as proposed at $896,579, and our town garage budget of $18,983. The revenue offset to that is budgeted at 90% of excise tax, because excise tax as a statute was created to offset the cost of maintaining roads. So our net amount after the application of our highway block grant and excise tax, our 90% of excise, is $40,062. Our transfer station expense is, this budget is again lower than last year. Minimal recycling revenue. Solid waste fees are the demo fees that are paid since we no longer charge for household waste. Rebates for our the trash that we dispose of through our MRC contract, for total offsets of $21,200, with a net amount after revenues of $204,937. Our recreation budget and our town dock walkway Main Street proposed budgets total $270,000. Again, there are offsets to those. The diversion grant RSU is the employee that we had for recreation at the time we transitioned our rec program to the Y, is now leased, shall we say, to the RSU in doing social work, and we receive reimbursement for that from the RSU. And she also does work on diversion grant programming, and we receive reimbursement for that as well. Our community and social agencies, the library is listed under that. There are also $22,000 shown under our economic development budget, which I am recommending to use a TIF revenue as an offset of $19,000 in a similar fashion to how the town has traditionally covered the cost of the chamber out of TIF revenue under that account. Social agencies, what you're seeing here as a number is under the manager recommendations, which reduces the amounts that were requested to the 2019-20 level, and also includes the 2 or 3 additional entities that were not funded last year, but did not appear last year, but did this year, and those are in there as well, which the net offset after revenues is $46,073 would be the community and social agency contribution after offsets. Our capital improvement reserves, which were really all in one straight line when I did this, when it converted it, they're a little not in line, I'm recommending that we put $287,000 into our capital improvement reserves. Our general assistance budget is $8,000, $5,600 of which we would get back from the state if we expended all $8,000, leaving a net amount of $2,100. And the other budgets are health officer, our debt service on the town share of interest on the soil concentrator, the TIP expense for the Jed Prouty, our cemeteries budget, which is $10,000 higher this year because I budgeted for work to be done to settle the issues at 917 River Road Cemetery that Councillor Downs is working on that project. Our utilities are our street lights and hydrant rental, which is not rental, but it covers the cost of the larger system that's constructed for water in order to accommodate a hydrant system. And then the proposed school budget is $4,728,786, and looking to use $100,000 from the designated reserve we have from that. Yet another line item on the general ledger. So the bottom line is that the municipal budget at $5,805,717 has revenue offsets of $3,510,125 for a net amount to be raised by taxation of $2,295,592. Our county tax is $203,902, and our school net to be raised amount is $4,628,786. Our overlay, that's just an estimation, is $80,000 with a total to be raised of $7,208,280. And as a note, the total of all of the budgets is $110,963 lower than the 1920 budget. And so where does your tax dollar go? If you look at this as a dollar, 64.2 cents is education, 33 cents is municipal operations, and 2.8 cents is the county tax. And the last slide shows where your 33 cents is spent, but as an explanation of what the headings mean, I've already outlined general government. Protection is police, fire, EMS, public safety building, dispatch, utilities. Streets and ways is 2 accounts. Health and sanitation is transfer and the general assistance. These are all what is incorporated into each department. And at the end of the day, 33 cents of the tax dollar that supports municipal operations. 13.3 cents goes to general government, 12.3 cents goes to protection, 0.4 cents goes to community and social agencies, 2.5 cents goes to capital and reserves, 1.8 cents goes to recreation, health and sanitation is 2.8, and streets and roads is 0.4 cents. So that's where your 33 cents of each tax dollar that supports our municipal operations goes proportionately. And that is the end of my presentation.
Questions?
Yeah, Peter, I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
So the school budget is, you said, 63,124 less than last year.
That's correct.
What do we figure in with that money that's less than? Is that something we still pretend like it's the same as last year? Because for the unforeseen for next year, because we don't know what's going to happen from monies from the state and federal regarding the school system. Does this money get set aside or what?
What the superintendent did in preparing his budget was to the last whenever they did prior to the pandemic, when they did the school funding, the RSU was scheduled to get a significant amount of additional funding, and Superintendent Boothby has budgeted not to receive the majority of that money, so that what they've attempted to do is act like they're not going to get much, and if they get more, it will provide more of a cushion. And they did that for the benefit of the towns, so that we wouldn't be in the position of trying to guess what they were going to do. They will have their budget meeting for the school isn't until July, because it's going to be just a validation referendum, but they're posting their warrants for their budget now as it is. So I don't anticipate that they're going to go tremendously lower. Superintendent Boothby is extremely conservative in his budget in terms of revenues, and he has greatly reduced the amount that they were told that they were going to get, anticipating that that's not going to happen. So we haven't set aside. What we've done in the past is, what will happen is if the state comes back with, and the school gets more money, what they've done in several years that I've been here is they've reduced the amount to the town, and we've budgeted for X but only paid Y, a lower amount. So that may help. That may happen as well. Is that any help? I mean, is that an explanation of what we're trying to do? That 63,000 that's there is part of the 110,000 lower it is. The town's budget is lower, the school's budget is lower. In that, I'm not recommending that we change the mill rate. I don't think that would be responsible. And that action alone, or the reduced budget, should produce additional overlay that would allow us, if there was some crisis, in order to respond out of a current budget as opposed to using fund balance or something.
No, thank you. That answers it. I just was seeing if there was some sort of cushion there, if well, if things get messy on the state level, messier on the state level.
Any other questions on any of the budgets?
I do.
Really?
I brought this up earlier, and I've talked to a bunch of you about, you know, your positions on this, and I feel as though with what Rich has been doing and running around, and with the grants and all the work that he's doing, and a lot of with the COVID-19 coming in, that we're giving another economic development company $20,000 in a time that a lot of the events and things that they can do, they can't do. And I really feel as though, you know, is that money the best spent there? We heard from a lot of people today. I got a lot of emails from a lot of very people that I respect very much, and I get it. And Brooke, it's you do a great job with what you do. But I guess I struggle with the $20,000 to just hand that over, and then at the same time, when it comes down to the paperwork, the efforts that Rich puts forward in those, that we don't have somebody there for him to do that part of it. And so I really wanted to bring that up. But I do know where most of you stand on it, some of you.
Anybody else have any comments?
I can speak up. I mean, I feel like Dan's probably addressing you, not me. I guess I would just say that, you know, like all nonprofits, the operations that we run are year round. And so bringing everything to a halt now means that things just don't start again, you know, in a few months. I understand your concerns, and there's no question that we too are very concerned about, you know, potential loss of revenue this summer. We continue to work really hard, like every nonprofit I know, to figure out ways to do things differently and use technology, just like you're all doing here. But it won't be the same. It won't be. And it's a lot more work, just like you're all finding, I'm sure, in all of your other jobs. So I hear that, but the work that we do now is planning for things 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months in advance, and that was also true 12 months ago. It's a really year-round kind of ongoing process. I guess that's how I would address that.
Okay. The question that I posed to you last week about could you function on a lesser amount while we go through this was it wasn't there. It was there because where we're at and what's happening within the town, is that something that's feasible? And we did get an email from John Paul that went through some of that. But again, I struggle with that when we have an economic development director who's got a big plate and he's got a lot on it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that entirely. And I hear your concerns. I hope that John Paul was able to lay out for you kind of the financial position that we're in. I think that was his goal. But I hear those concerns, and I certainly would never in any way want to indicate that Rich should do more. I hope that our role is to be in support of the work that he does. That's always been our goal, and I think we've done a good job in working with him and doing that.
Anybody else on the council?
I tend to agree with Dan that this is a time right now when we have to be a little more conservative in some areas.
Okay. I will throw out there that last year's budget, the proposal that came from the council was to spend up to 1% of our valuation on social services, and this year we're spending 0.41%. So if anything, we have done a better job of looking at that. Looking at all the information we got, including from our economic development director, who said that this is a program that absolutely is helping him. And I'm going to take the town manager when she says that hiring another person on the town payroll is not the best fiscal, is not the best way to handle the thing fiscally when we have a process out there that seems to be working. And yeah, we may not have had the Bay Festival, we may not have had the run, but the folks doing the bucks paid for itself. And doing those sort of things that they've shifted just like everybody's shifted. And I think that's part of what we've looked for when we are allocating funds and we're looking at things to do, that we want to make sure that if there is a shift that needs to happen, then that shift takes place. And we still feel comfortable that, and the folks that I hear from, Brooke will be the first to admit that when we first started this, I was probably asking the same questions 5 or 6, 3 or 4 years ago. But after a period of time, you can see that there is a benefit, and you can see that those things are happening. And again, I go back to our social service piece where, we're $60,000 less than what we were last year allocating. So I think when we look at what we're getting, what Rich is getting out of it, and I hear that concern, but personally, I take it from Rich and from Sue that this right now is the way to go. And I think when you hear from the townsfolk and you hear from the business folks that we all had emails from, that it is a service that I think we're well positioned to take care of.
I'd like to make a quick comment, Peter. I think that this year, well, in the years to come, we're especially going to see that with the chamber dissolving, I think Main Street Bucksport is going to be picking up a lot more slack than what they're used to. They're going to be, I believe, I haven't talked to Brooke about this like in depth or anything, but I can see them wearing 2 hats from here on in, of kind of doing a lot what the chamber did before, as well as doing what Main Street Bucksport has been doing. And I think they benefit Rich and the town in a big, big way, especially these last couple of months as they've proven to be, invaluable. All I can see is for $20,000, it's a lot of money, but it's, as opposed to, I don't know the exact numbers, Sue would tell you that better than me, but to hire an assistant for Rich with insurance and the whole deal, that's got to be at least $65,000. I mean, I think for the money that's being asked, we're getting a pretty damn good return on it. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Paul?
Yeah.
Yep, Paul.
Yeah, to me, it boils down to a couple of things. It is that return on investment. Councilor Rankin is right. I think when you look at the Bucks being a good example, there are other examples, but then it also boils down to the person doing the job, and I certainly don't have any complaints there. I think an interesting thing with Main Street Bucksport over the years, or certainly the last several years, is that this council has challenged Brook and Main Street Bucksport in a couple of ways, whether it's, they have a very transparent budget. We've challenged Brook and Main Street Bucksport to do more fundraising, and that happened. And I don't say this to put that's not true. I don't mind putting pressure on anybody. I think this is an interesting. This is an interesting time with the chamber closing. I think this really needs to be seen as an opportunity for Main Street Bucksport, quite frankly. And I think that if done correctly, and as Rich insinuated in his correspondence to us today, with the conversation we've had with the town manager about this, if done correctly, this will cement, I think, or could cement what the work that Main Street does for Bucksport, and kind of make this, this tends to be an issue every year, and maybe make that go away. Doesn't mean we don't have our eyes on it. Doesn't mean we're not always, because it is a fair amount of money that we're putting towards it. But every year the return on investment has been there. And to me, that's the deciding factor. And then, of course, I think another thing that's helped with that is some of the correspondence that we've seen in support of Main Street Bucksport from a wide demographic of people. And to me, those two things make it something I'm going to support that $20,000 for Main Street Bucksport wholeheartedly.
Thanks. Anybody else? So the question before us, I assume, Sue, is do we want to go forward with our budget?
I just wanted to.
Kathy's down at the bottom. I had her covered. Sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to back up that, I received all those emails too, and I'm very impressed with how it is being handled. It has changed my mind. Sue's did a great deal of explanation, and that helped. And I also believe with the chamber closing, that's going to put a lot more pressure on Main Street, along with helping Rich. And I think that's important, is helping Rich out too. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Yep, thanks. So anything else on any other parts of the budget? Everybody's comfortable? So we go forward, Sue, and make a recommendation and a vote?
So you would vote to send the presented budgets, sewer, marina, and general fund, and capital improvements. But I want to note that a vote to approve the capital improvement does not mean that you approve any expenditure of capital improvement funds. All of the things that are identified in that capital improvement budget are reserve expenditures. Every reserve expenditure requires individual council action. So approving a capital improvement budget that includes X amount of money doesn't mean that you're obligated to spend every dollar that's there. It means this is what's been outlined for expenditures, but every one of those items that's on that list is going to come before the council individually for consideration. I know there's been some misunderstanding about, I won't say, because it's the discussion of the deputy chief's vehicle is one example. That's a capital improvement budget. It's included in next year's budget. It's not actually an expenditure, a new purchase. It's not a truck. It's moving a vehicle from the police side to the fire side and paying the police side for it to use as a trade-in allowance on that cruiser. But the council will have to vote individually on that when that item comes before them. There's been some thoughts that was part of the general operating budget, and it's not. That's one of those separate items that gets voted on by the council. I just wanted to clarify that because that was one other item that I had heard questions about how that was going to happen, and whether if you approve capital improvement, that every single item that was listed there got an automatic rubber stamp, and that's not the case. Every one of those, as you know, you just did one tonight that's been on the capital improvement list for years. Yep. So.
Thank you. So I'll take a motion and a second, or a motion to pass forward for public hearing, public. So you're going to tell me with the wordage here.
General government. I don't even know.
General government.
General fund, sewer, marina, and capital improvement.
Motion to approve is submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Anything further? Around the room, Jake?
Mark Eastman?
Approve.
Jim Morrison,
Approve?
Paul Bissonnette,
Approve.
Peter Stewart,
Approve?
Dan Ormsby,
Approve.
Kathy Downs,
Approve.
Ed Rankin.
Approved.
All right, thanks, folks. Just a reminder, the June 25th meeting will be at the Performing Arts Center at the middle school. My assumption is, Sue, we will have one entrance there. It will be set up with signs, and we will come up with some guidance on how we're going to run that well before the meeting.
You will get information well ahead of time on how it's going to be set up, whether you need to bring your computers, all of that.
Yep.
I'll work with our IT on that and have that well ahead of that
Yep.
meeting.
And it, maybe in next week's Enterprise and the week of the meeting, we can just make sure that we post if we have those rules and capacity numbers and things like that. And then we'll still be broadcast for folks that don't want to travel. So, all right. Last item on the agenda is adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor? I can see everybody. I'm going to save you some voice, Jake. Have a great night, everybody.
Have a good night, all.
See you later.